Okay, sounds good. Welcome everyone this to Magical Travels event. Tonight we're going to talk about Christmas time on the main Danube River in Europe with Avalon Waterways. My name is Denise Hafto. I'm the owner of Magical Travel, and we're joined tonight by Andy Hilbert, a representative from Globus, Cosmos, and Avalon Waterways. Also joining us tonight is Angela Kroon and Jennifer Collette, who are senior travel advisors with Magical Travel. We have group space for December 7th to December 15th, 2027. Shipboard gratuities will be included with that. There's a low $250 deposit per person, and the balance is due 90 days prior. So they're the main things that you need to know about what we're going to talk about tonight. But during this event, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. So I'd like to introduce Andy Hilbert, who's going to give us a presentation.
Well, thank you, Denise. I've so enjoyed working with the team. And I was so excited when I found out that they wanted to do a Christmas market group. And added bonus, this is actually the same itinerary that my husband and I did last December. So for those of you who might not know, Globus family of brands actually started almost 100 years ago with our land touring division, which is Globus. We then developed Cosmos, which is more of our budget-minded touring. And then Avalon Waterways, which is what we're going to be talking about the most today, started in 2004. So I like to show this great little video because just like Magical Travel, we are a privately held and family-owned business.
It began with a small dream from a man on his rowboat on Lake Lugano. Antonio Montagazza had a vision of doing more than transporting goods across the lake. He dreamed of taking people across the globe. And in 1928, when he created Globus, Antonio exchanged his rowboat for motor coaches and initiated a ripple in travel that changed the world. By 1950, Globus expanded from Swiss day trips to Italian holidays, and with help from another entrepreneur, Werner Albeck, the company unveiled the world's first multi-country European touring vacations. In 1961, Globus created Cosmos for cost-conscious travelers, generating another ripple of change. And over the next few decades, Globus and Cosmos expanded to Africa, Australia, North America, and Asia. By 2004, the ripple from Antonio's rowboat led the company back to its roots, to make waves on the rivers of Europe with the launch of Avalon Waterways. In 2011, Avalon changed the tide of cruising again with the world's first sweet ship, then a fleet of sweet ships, all while elevating cruising. All the while, Globus continued to innovate touring, taking travelers beyond the globe's go-to landmarks to uncover undiscovered towns and coasts without crowds, leading wayfarers to extraordinary moments and the memories waiting for them. Today, the ripples Antonio's dream inspired are at the heart of everything we do. From one rowboat to 95 years of fulfilling travel dreams across the globe, the Globus family of brands continues to row toward awe and wonder. This is how we row. Feel the current.
And I love that video. I think it gives you guys a really great history of our company. And literally being in business almost 100 years, it's a crazy world out there. So you always want to get travel protection for the unexpected. But one of the reasons the team at Magical Travel has chosen to work with us is they know that your vacation investment is safe with us. So we have, and don't worry, unlike your finals, there's not going to be a test on this. There's over 741 vacation combinations across all the brands. We do travel on 6 of the 7 continents. We're in 80 countries. We're 98 years young and we'll be 100 years old in 2028. So the reason I wanted to bring that up is we pride ourselves on making very happy guests no matter how you choose to travel with Globus family of brands. When you are on land with Globus or Cosmos, you have a dedicated tour director and separate driver with you the whole time. When you're aboard Avalon Waterways, of course, you have the nautical crew, but you have a cruise director who's with you and then other local guides that you'll work with on your included excursions. The reason I bring this up is because we make happy guests, you will notice when you come home and the team will follow up with you, but you'll get an email that will have a welcome back credit. It can be valued at up to $250 per person that you could use on your next Globus, Cosmos, or Avalon trip. So most people love Avalon. They say, I had a great time and I want to do another Avalon cruise. You could do that. Or if you say, hey, I want to go somewhere exotic, like maybe you want to do a safari. Globus offers that, and you can put that welcome back credit towards your land trip as well. So I just want to make sure we mention that up front so that you know to expect it. And I know we're primarily here to talk about our river cruising experience, but I do want to show you a funny video of why the Globus family of brands has gotten such rave reviews from people is because we really do help you have an amazing experience. So this shows really the tour director taking care of some clients on tour in Italy, but it's a funny video.
This is the story of two couples vacationing in the same place at the same time.
No. I think it's this way.
Sure?
Yeah, yes.
Alessandra?
Yes. Hi. You have a good trip?
One chose a Globus tour.
Come with me to the car.
The other went on their
Are you
own.
a taxi? I want to rent the car.
Go it alone,
I don't have that. I don't know what app
What's the name of the app?
and you're on your own.
Our ride is just around the corner.
Are we close?
It's like 4 more blocks.
Go with Globus,
You are already checked in?
and we'll make everything easy.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
Alessandro says, have to try the
No
mussels.
one's answering. Try pushing the buttons.
Hello? We're here. Hello?
Tour with us, and the world opens up effortlessly.
If you follow me, I will take you inside.
It keeps moving. I think we need to keep moving in order for it.
Because there's a big difference between figuring it out and having it all figured
So
out.
guys, when you travel with us, you skip the line.
Where are they going?
They're going in.
On a Globus tour, you see more. You do more. You learn more.
This is Lucella, guys. We are here. He is doing perfecto. Flip it now. Flip it again.
It says to look for a guy in a blue hat.
Blue hat. There are like 10 guys with blue hats.
On a Globus tour, you simply enjoy. With less stress, less worry,
Try over here.
less hassles,
Hello?
and more stories.
So a lot of people miss these when they come here, but these are the wine windows.
I wonder what that is.
Alessandro, since we have the rest of the afternoon free, do you have any suggestions?
Well, you know what, guys? There's actually a really nice farmer's market. It's around the corner. Good for lunch. I can show you if you want.
Let's go.
Honey, I don't know where to go.
Can't we find a real person?
Next time, don't just go.
You want me to buy you something? I could maybe.
Go beyond. Tour with Globus.
So like I said, the reason that I show that is what the tour director does on land, your cruise director does for you when you're on Avalon Waterways. And I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that all of the Globus family of brands is something that Magical Travel can help you with. In fact, two of their advisors are going to be going on a Globus Lisbon to Madrid escape. So these are special off-season tours. So when Europe, like October through about April Fool's Day, a lot of the hotels are discounted rates. So we do these off-season tours called Escape. So you might want to talk to the team to find out. There are some dates that have some air-inclusive pricing that is really, really great. And again, these are fall of 2026 and kind of early winter of 2027 if you do think you ever want to do anything on land. So this is just an example of the Lisbon to Madrid escape. I know the team, when they're traveling with us, they'll be posting a lot. So this is what they'll be talking about: the Lisbon, going to port for the wine cellar, doing a wine tasting dinner in Salamanca, and then guided sightseeing, including a visit to the Prado Museum. Ireland is also one of our more popular destinations as well. The Scenic Ireland tour here. This is something I actually had a tour director visit and do some dinners for our travel advisor partners, like the team here at Magical Travel. And Helen Lee was our tour director who came, and she did a beautiful description of what the all the fun things that we do with our guests on the Scenic Ireland tour. So this is something that would be more in season. You can see it's a little bit longer tour as well. We do have destinations on six of the seven continents, including home. So a lot of people, and anytime you want to do it is fine, but a lot of people save discovering our own backyard for last. But just know if you ever want to do something with the national parks, it can be really stressful to do park admission, parking passes, and all that. So if you just want to sit back, relax, and let someone else do the driving, again, the team can help look at some of our national parks tours. This happens to be one of our more popular ones because it covers three of the national parks during this 10-day itinerary. So just something to kind of make you guys aware of possible opportunities for you to either use your welcome back credit or, outside of the river cruise, we're going to be talking about other vacations that the team can help you plan. We do have some really cool tours that are not just motor coaches. So one of the ones I like is our Swiss Splendors by Train. So this is usually going on in the summertime or in full season. But the reason I mentioned this particular itinerary with Globus last is river cruising is great in the summertime too. So there are certain days that you could start off with the Swiss Splendors by Train, and then it will match up to a Rhine river cruise. So again, your favorite travel advisors can get you information on doing just the train, just the Rhine River, or combining the two with Globus and Avalon. So that's on my wish list. I know my mom jokes every time she sees Switzerland on a travel channel. She's just absolutely obsessed with just the gorgeous scenery. So, without further ado, let's talk about what makes Avalon Waterways so special. For people who have never river cruised before, I always like to start off with this because if you've never river cruised before, you just by nature picture the larger ships that you see on the ocean. I like this picture because it points out, see not the sea. There's a big difference. You're always going to be close to land. You usually pull up right into the heart of the cities. So just another visual. You see how tiny we are. We fit what I say in the booty of maybe a 3,000 passenger ship. So if a cruise line for the ocean has about 3,000 guests on board, for Avalon Waterways, we only have about 150 guests on board most of our ships. So when you think about what that means, if you took the space of a football field, they're on a regular ocean liner, they're trying to put about 750 people in the space of a football field. But with Avalon, we only have about 150 people sharing that same amount of space as a football field. So you have a little bit more personal space on board, even though it still is a more compact vessel, which I'll show you a picture in another moment. But you have a great crew to passenger ratio. So our staff, we are not fancy at all. So people have some really big misconceptions about what river cruising is like. But with Avalon Waterways, it's very relaxed to luxury. I even wore like jeans to dinner during my Christmas market cruise. So, a sweater and jeans was perfectly acceptable for dinner. Um, You'll also see that, because of that, there's less turnover when it comes to turning over your stateroom. So you still have a morning refresh service and an evening turn down service as long as you don't put your do not disturb sign on. Um, and just like an ocean liner, the ships have to be longer and more narrow, but this shows you a ship going through a lock. So with the rivers, they're not always the same depth. So you could be starting out high, going into the lock and being lowered down to meet up with a lower level of the river, or you might be coming from a lower area and getting lifted up to meet the higher point in the river. So on this particular cruise, you'll go through a few of them. The biggest one is actually, I'll point out what day that is. It's while you're doing an onboard Austrian cookie demonstration. So you're going to be paying attention to the cookies more than you're going to be paying attention to the lock because the cookies were really good. But the reason I point this out is we have to make the most of the space on board. So I'll show you a video a little bit later. But what it's going to point out is if you were looking at their cabin from above, The smart things we did to give you a nice use of space and actually more space to move around the cabin, we have our beds in the panorama suites facing the wall. Basically, it's a big sliding glass door. So your whole room becomes a balcony. And that slanted wall gives you actually a nice, usable sized shower. So the video goes into all the fun things about your room, but we are the largest standard cabin in river cruising. And there's only 3 decks on the ship. This style of cabin is all on deck 3 and all on deck 2. So you've got lots of great room to feel comfortable and call home. So here's a video that's really going to talk a little bit about the ins and outs of the cabin, and then we'll talk about all of the other great things that are included on board while you're sailing.
The sweet ships of Avalon, designed from the ground up, with an attention to detail river cruising has never seen before. There's nothing quite like river cruising, no matter who you cruise with. But there are some pretty big differences between companies, starting with how they look at staterooms. And our one-of-a-kind panorama suite is proof of our innovation, our imagination, and our desire to create a smarter use of space. To give you some perspective of how much better our staterooms are, we're comparing them to the average river cruise cabin. Here's the average window, roughly 7 feet wide, with an opening under 4 feet. Here's our window, nearly 11 feet wide, floor to ceiling, wall to wall. And when it opens, it really opens. Wide enough to let the outside in, because the opening is a full 7 feet, almost twice the size of the others. It's the largest standard window in river cruising. Now let's take a look at the bed of the average cabin. It faces the wall. Not much to look at there. We had a much better idea. What if we angled the wall and turned the bed? That little change gives you the perfect perspective of the amazing views out your window. We then turned our attention to the balcony. Here's the average river cruise balcony. Seems like a nice idea, but as far as we can tell, there's not a lot of room for people to enjoy the views out there. And they had to take space from your stateroom to create that small deck space outside. So here's our better idea. Reclaim that space, push the window out, add a spacious dining and seating area for up to 6 adults. Combine it with the largest sliding glass door in the business, and voila! You have an open-air balcony, the only one of its kind in river cruising. And you can enjoy it day and night, no matter the weather. Plus, you'll enjoy a lot more livable space, a full 200 square feet. We gave our room an attention to detail unmatched in the industry. We offer comfort collection beds, plenty of easily accessible storage, and we even added sound dampening insulation in our walls to make it less likely you'll hear your neighbors or they'll hear you. And we didn't stop with the room. We turned that same attention to detail to the bathroom. We took a look at the bathroom of the average ship, and we knew we could do better. By angling the wall, we opened up more space in the bathroom. Then we took our newfound space and we made it luxurious. We have a large tile shower with glass doors, marble countertops, premium fixtures, L'Occitane bath amenities, and shelves to store all your necessities. And the best part is that there aren't just a couple of these staterooms on our ships, reserved for those who want to pay more. 80% of the staterooms on our suite ships are panorama suites. And once you leave your suite, you're likely to find fewer people on our suite ships. Because with our bigger staterooms, there is less capacity for passengers, which means more space everywhere you go. As you can see, more has gone into the amazing panorama suites, so you can get so much more out of them. Does your river cruise do this? We invite you to compare, and you'll see there's no comparison.
So that gives you a really detailed view of everything that you're going to experience as far as your cabin and its amenities. So something that I like to point out in the videos, we do show it is 2 beds that are pushed together, but if you would like to have the 2 beds separated, that is possible as well. They move the end table in between the 2 beds. But again, you still have a great flow of space because of that slanted wall and basically the panorama suite. Like I said, the whole room basically becomes your balcony. So the panorama suites is really what sets Avalon Waterways apart. Other things we're going to talk about is Avalon has a choice of included excursions. And then not on this particular Christmas cruise, but overall, Avalon has a unique style of river cruising called active and discovery. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. We have flexible dining, which is very different from most ocean liner type experiences. And I'll explain a little bit more on that later. And we win sustainability awards all the time. And I'll talk about some of the things that we do to help protect sustainability. So the main thing is our suites. They don't get any sweeter. You say that amazing open air balcony, it's 30% larger than other suites on the ocean. And again, so if you look at the ship, this is deck 3, this is deck 2, and then there are cabins, which are the deluxe cabins. We call those the swan view. They have a little transom window. So most people do like to do the panorama suites on board. Something that's a little different if you have only ever ocean cruised with Avalon in our Europe suites ships, which you will be on for your Christmas market cruise, we have Wi-Fi. So whether you need to work, which you shouldn't on vacation, but we're all guilty, you'll have great Wi-Fi to do that, keep in touch with friends and family. So it's very easy to stay connected while you're traveling. Something else that's a little different if you're only used to ocean line cruising, on most ocean liners, you actually have to pay per excursion, and that's a little different with Avalon Waterways. So, with Avalon Waterways, about the time your final payment is due, 90 days prior, you'll get a reminder that you can pick your included choice of excursion. So, you're always going to get at least one included excursion a day, and there's different styles of excursions. So even if you and your partner are sharing a suite together, you could pick something different. So for instance, my boss is very active. She would pick the hiking, biking, kayaking, and things like that, which you don't see as much of during Christmas markets because it's cooler and less daylight, but we cruise in the summertime. So a lot of summertime cruises have really good active excursions. You have your discovery excursions, which that's a lot of what you're going to have here in the Christmas market space, like that Austrian cookie demonstration I mentioned, but we have wine lover cruises, beer lover cruises. If you go to Portugal, they're known for the tile painting. We do a tile painting workshop on board our ship on the Douro. We also, on some of the France cruises, do learn how to paint in the style of Vincent van Gogh. And then the other thing that's on all of our cruises is classic. So a classic tour might be like something in Strasbourg. You do a walking tour of the medieval town. You visit the cathedral, the La Petite France district. So that might be a little bit more history and architecture. So we try to have all three choices available every day of any itinerary. With the Christmas markets, you're going to see more classic and discovery. So, say you decide, hey, I had a great time on this Christmas market cruise. I want to go back, but I want to do something in warmer weather so I could do our active and discovery cruises. This is again where you would talk to the team, talk about the river that you want to do and things that you'd like to do. One of the cruises I personally would like to do is active and discovery on the Rhone River in France. So, what's different about those? You're going to have up to 28 included excursions. A lot of them are the active and discovery style where you can kayak under a Roman aqueduct. You can get suited up in cave gear and do wine tasting at the bottom of a cave. There's a great culinary tour in Lyon. So sometimes those stops and the amount of time you spend in port are different. And of course, the tour choices, you have more of them on the active and discovery cruises. In general, Avalon tends to cruise a little bit younger than other cruise lines. So our average age for Globus, Cosmos, and Avalon is about 62 years old. On the active and discovery, we're starting to see that age drop to be more in the 50s or even multi-generational groups. So we could talk a little bit more about that later if you guys have questions, but just food for thought for other times of the year that you might want to travel. The other thing that's a little bit different if you've only ever ocean cruise versus river cruising is Avalon has flex dining. So what that means is there is no pre-assigned tables and there is no pre-assigned start dining time. Again, this is only 150 guests on board on average. So what will happen is, you'll do your excursions during the day, you'll come back. We'll talk about this in a little bit. We have a tea service. After tea service is over, we do an included happy hour every day. Then your cruise director will do a port talk about what's going to be happening, the next day and reminders of what the excursions are like. And then when that port talk is done, people usually go down to dinner. Dinner begins at about 7 p.m. and goes until about 9 p.m. And you can sit wherever you like. There's tables of two, there's tables of four, there's a couple larger round tables. So there's no assigned seating, you have that flexibility. And that's in our main panorama dining room. So for dinner, we have a fully served four-course meal. For breakfast and for lunch, that is also in the panorama dining room, but that's mostly a buffet with some stations. So, like for breakfast, there's an omelet station. For lunch, there might be a pasta or carving station. And then, usually for breakfast and lunch, there's also a menu card. You can order some a la carte items. So, for breakfast, if you wanted eggs Benedict or a waffle, your server would bring that to you. It's one of the choices on your card. And even though there's amazing food that's reflective of the destinations you're traveling, sometimes you just want a hamburger or cheeseburger, and that's always one of the choices on the menu card on your table to have served to you at lunch as well. For people who don't want to sit in the formal dining room for dinner, we often will do, except for the first day because of the safety briefing, the upstairs panorama lounge will turn into a little bistro where you're going to have light tapas style bites of the main menu items just in a smaller and more casual setting. I did take advantage of this on this particular Christmas market cruise because I went a little crazy and ate too many sausages at the Christmas market. So I was pretty full, but I didn't want to not try some of the things that chef had prepared that evening. So instead of going to the dining room, I just tried a little bit, little bite-sized pieces to say I had some food at dinner, but I never would have made it sitting through a four-course meal that night. Usually for warmer weather cruises, we will try to do a lunch or a dinner up on the sky deck, which is very nice. And then we do include room service. So you have the ability to order a continental breakfast to your room, no extra charge. And then during lunch and dinner hours, if you would like to be served in your cabin, you can. Most people don't, but it is an option. If you're really tired or something, you could do that. But most people like to do either the dining room or the bistro. So we talked a lot about the food, which is amazing. So bring your stretchy pants. But we talked about the complimentary happy hour that's included every day except that first day. The afternoon tea time. So it's not a fancy setup, but there are finger sandwiches and other sweets. And then, of course, a tea selection for you to choose. And because we do tend to cruise a little bit younger than our competitors, we are leaning into what we call Avalon After Dark, where we are bringing on some more onboard entertainment. And depending upon the itinerary, sometimes they'll do fun things where it's not a pre-bookable excursion, but the cruise director may say, oh, I'll get you guys a taxi and here's a map. You could do like a little pub crawl on your own. So, those things are available on select sailings as we talk about in 2026, but the entertainment is already up and running for all of the different rivers. And you're going to find you're going to love our team. They are genuinely nice, and I can't believe it. One of my colleagues who's been with the company for a while, she just went on a ship and she didn't remember the server, but the server remembered her. I don't know how they do it, but just really very genuine and gracious service. So we talked a little bit about the Avalon After Dark, and some of it includes nightly drink specials with the happy hour, or sometimes a lot of people are getting away from drinking, so there are some mocktails that are included as well. So this clearly, as you could tell by the background, this is not a corporate video. This is my personal video from my cell phone, something that is unique with Avalon Waterways, where other cruise lines will have cabins or something else toward the rear of the ship. We have created an area called the Club Lounge. And the Club Lounge is available for all guests to use. And it's kind of like a family room style. So I'm going to hit play So you could see, you'll see there's a TV in there, the couches. You'll see some higher tables if you want to play cards or board games. A lot of people do that back here. Or in my case, sometimes I check my email. You see the ice machine. This is one of the two coffee machines. I've named him Ernesto. You've got snacks over here. And then you have a flavored water machine here as well. So this is me with Ernesto. There's two Ernestos. There's one in the club lounge, and this is the one in the front of the ship in the panorama lounge where happy hour, the port talk, and the entertainment is. So those two coffee machines are available 24 hours a day. I usually do a morning latte. Sometimes I bring it back to my room. Sometimes I just hang out, or I'll even bring it down to the dining room area. Part of our sustainability effort is we do not have any single-use plastics on board, and this includes water. So I encourage people, you can use one of our water bottles on board, but a lot of people have a favorite water bottle that they, fits good in their luggage or they are comfortable carrying around. Feel free to bring it. In the back of the ship, we have a flavored water machine called Be Well. So this is me using the machine. You're going to pick your flavor of water. You're going to see if you want it still or sparkling, with the bubbles, and it will dispense for you. So one of my favorite flavors is the ginger lime, but there's also cucumber mint. And my insider tip, I don't do well sleeping on the overnight flight to Europe. So that first night, I really like a good night's rest. There is an unflavored magnesium water. So you could do a little magnesium water. And with the beautiful Comfort Collection beds we have, you should sleep like a baby the first night. So other things for sustainability efforts, we partner with Trees for Travel to offset the carbon footprinting. So that started back in 2022. We have a green award for all of our ships. We have no single-use plastic. So the no bottled waters. And then in the video, they mentioned the L'Occitane bath amenities. You have a full-size shampoo, a full-size conditioner, a full-size body wash in the shower, and then you have a full-size hand wash and a full-size moisturizer by the sink. We do not print any documentation. You'll have it all electronically, and then closer to sailing on your phone, you'll be able to have the Avalon Go app. So that's a reminder of your documents, the daily activity schedule, and then what I love to do, my mom is not able to travel, but what I would do is when the menus would come out that day, I would take a picture of it and I'd text it to her because they come out earlier in the day. And I said, Mom, what should I order for lunch? Or what should I order for dinner? So that was her way. She loves when I go on Avalon because then she gets to pick what I'm eating for dinner. So that's her favorite thing. There's digital screens throughout, and even your follow-up guest survey is done electronically as well. So that's just the beginning of our sustainability efforts. Obviously, we're looking at, other types of fuel, even doing electronic motors and things like that. So that's always top of mind. But, we have glass carafes of water that are refilled daily, so you're not going to see any plastic on board for single use, which is great. I know we covered a lot, but just to recap everything that you'll have on an Avalon Waterways cruise. So the day that you embark, you're going to have the safety briefing with your captain's welcome reception. You're going to be able to pick your shore excursions 90 days prior. And when I show you the day-by-day itinerary, we'll show you some examples of those. You're going to have the onboard cultural experiences and entertainment, the Avalon After Dark. And then I didn't mention this as much because it is a little bit cooler weather, but we always have an adventure host on board. So on our Avalon ships, we always have bikes that are available to use. So on the Christmas market cruises, I don't believe there's any bike excursions included, but if you wanted to while you're in port, you could talk to the adventure host and like rent out a bike and just ride it around on your own. I know on the Christmas market cruise I was on, we took a shuttle bus up to one of the castles, and the adventure host did like a walk up to the castle to make it more active. We have that complimentary Wi-Fi on board that I mentioned. And we have included beer, wine, sparkling wine with lunch and dinner. We have sparkling wine at breakfast if you want to make a mimosa, soft drinks throughout the day. And then because of that coffee machine in the back lounge with the tea and snacks, you have round the clock coffee, tea, and snacks in the club lounge. The complimentary happy hour. So that starts your second night on board because, again, that first night is the captain's welcome. We have the afternoon tea service that I mentioned. And then if you'd like to have room service, that's available to you as well. So I do see some things coming in the chat. So before I go into the day by day, Denise, have you been reading any of the chats coming in on the question? Is there anything you want me to talk about before we look at the day by day itinerary?
I have, let's see here. Well, yeah, let's talk about what's the time limit on the welcome back credit? Is it 2 years or
It
one?
is 2 years. It is 2 years. So usually what will happen is you'll come home, excuse me, and you'll have up to 2 years to apply it to the booking that your magical travel agent will help you make. So you don't have to travel within the 2 years, but you have to have something deposited so we can put that credit on your next booking.
Okay. And how about food allergies? How are they handled?
Oh, you're stealing my thunder from the next slide. One of my insider tips is when you guys come on board, there will be notices in your app, in paper at the front desk, because there's a big welcome letter, and on your TVs that anybody who has food allergies or sensitivities, before the safety briefing begins, they will instruct you guys to go to the back club lounge. You're actually going to meet the chef and usually the food and beverage manager. So you're going to be able to discuss your food allergies and concerns with them so that they're aware. Your servers are also excellent about, asking about any food allergies. And then on the app and on your printed menus, when you get them for dinner, there will also be allergens noted as well. So we do a really good job of food allergies and sensitivities, making sure you get to actually talk to the chef about them, which I really appreciate.
Okay.
But
And
great question.
someone also asked about CPAP machine. I think I remember my brother-in-law using one on the cruise and they provided the extension cord for him. So, um,
Yeah, you always want to double check with your CPAP machine because there's CPAPs are not super duper common in Europe, but the big thing is the plugs on board the ship are the European style plug. So they're not the US plug. So you just want to make sure, that you check your machine, and maybe you need to bring an adapter so that it will plug into that European extension cord type thing.
right. Right. And then
Yeah.
someone asked how many people can fit in a room and are there connecting staterooms?
There are not connecting staterooms. So because of the nature of the beds facing out, we have those walls insulated. And if you cut into the insulation, it would disturb the soundproofing in the room. So it's 2 people per room and there's no connecting rooms. When you do make your deposit, you actually will be selecting your room number at that time. So on my Christmas market cruise, we do allow children 8 or older to cruise with us. We don't do anything special for them. And because we don't have connecting cabins and we do not allow more than 2 in a room, we don't travel a lot of children. But on my Christmas time cruise that I did this itinerary last year, there was a family from St. Thomas. And it was an extended family. It was clearly, grandparents, kids, their spouses, and then their grandkids or the kids of those spouses were all there. So what they did was when they did their cabin assignments, they kind of did like an adult cabin, a kid cabin, an adult cabin. So they were able to do cabins next to each other. And I think they did some across the hall from each other as well. So, and the ships aren't big. It's 3 decks. 150 guests. So you really can't get lost. It's not like these big ships where there's there's no casinos, there's no big nightly show area. You have your panorama lounge, you have your club lounge, your dining room and your cabin. So that's kind of really the only common areas outside of your staterooms. So
And I've been on 6 Avalon cruises, and I don't think I've ever had more than 125 guests on our ship. So
mhm.
it's been great.
Well,
It's
you
extreme.
say that, but I will tell you, Christmas cruises are some of the most popular itineraries out there. So I know sometimes people think that 2027 is too far off. And I will tell you, if you do not deposit your space soon, the ship will fill up. I think there was only two, so my ship was 162 people and we had 158 people on board because it was a Christmas time cruise.
Okay. Um,
So, yeah, they can get
another,
very popular.
it can. Another question is, once you pick your excursion, can it be changed? And is there a limit on how many people can sign up for a specific excursion?
So the good news is we try to keep the excursion group smaller. So we would prefer that everybody try to pick their excursion earlier because what that does is it helps the cruise director decide how many local guides they will get We try to keep the groups more like 20 to 25 people per group. Not all cruise lines do that. Some people do like 50 people in one tour guide. We do have the Whisper earpieces. So you'll get an earpiece in your cabin and you'll just replace what you plug it into every day. Um, but it is helpful if you pick and stick with the same excursion. Can you change it? It is certainly possible, especially if it's something that does not require an admission ticket. So if it's just like a walking tour of like a Christmas market, everybody's going to be doing the same thing. I know on some of our other itineraries in warmer weather, it becomes more of an issue because, maybe they're doing an entryway into a museum or something along those lines. But for Christmas time, I think when we go through the day by day itinerary, we'll look at some of those and I'll point out if there's one that if you really want to do it, you should. I mean, it's helpful to the cruise director to book it anyway, but if you didn't get it, you might not be able to change it. So,
And I do want to mention per excursion, there's normally 2 to 3 groups. So you'll have a yellow group and a blue group
mhm.
going to the same locations. Sometimes there's 3. It depends on how popular that excursion is. And you will also have slow walkers. So another,
Yes.
so sometimes there's 4 groups with that slow walking group. So there's plenty of space. I
Mhm.
think you'd have a little bit harder time when it's something like with a dining experience and you have to
Mhm.
pay for it up front. Those are probably capped at a certain point. But I've never
Correct.
had a problem trying to get an excursion that I wanted.
Yeah, I don't think for Christmas time, I don't think it's an issue. I know for I actually did a river cruise in France and we did have a cooking opportunity. The itinerary that I was on, the cooking location was very small, so there were only about 16 people who could sign up for it. So that one was definitely, if you didn't sign up for it right away, you probably weren't going to get it. But again, that was more of a hands-on cooking class situation with the chef off the ship. So we can look at these, but I don't think off the top of my head that there's anything that you guys would have a challenge with. But it is helpful for everybody to have a smoother cruise. If you think you want something, kind of aim for it. But to Denise's point, and this is something that the cruise director will kind of go over with you guys when you first come on board, and they'll make a joke. The first day, everybody gets so excited they come down super early for excursions because they don't know about like picking the color that they want to go. Usually, to Denise's point, with our classic excursions, there's usually always a gentle or leisurely walker group. And on all the cruises I've been on, the cruise director usually picks a white circle for that. So, but the cruise director will explain, hey, if I have my gentle walkers, make sure you're in the white group, or my gentle walkers, make sure you're in the blue group. But you get a little blue dot, and that'll be with the guide that's going to take your group out on that particular experience.
So someone did ask, do you offer adult only trips? And I think you kind of touched on that. That really,
Yeah, we don't really, there's nothing that we do that's geared toward children. So, what my experience has been, the youngest kids I saw was on this itinerary because they were traveling. This was like their family Christmas vacation. Most of the time, because a lot of our excursions are having to do with history, and again, because we only have those double cabins that do not connect, you usually won't see a lot of kids on board, but if you do, it's usually once they start learning world history. The example I give is my own HR director here at Globus and Avalon. Her son was about 15 when he first learned about World War II in Normandy. So the two of them shared a cabin and they did the active and discovery on the Seine, which meant that they did different, more active excursions along the way, but then they still got to see, the Normandy cemetery and everything. But yeah, usually, you're not going to cruise a lot of children with us.
okay. I think we'll do the rest of the questions at the end.
Sure, absolutely. So if anybody thinks of anything else while we're going through day by day, put it in the chat and we can come back to it. So, your cruise is a wonderful itinerary. You are going to fly overnight from the US to get into Prague. You'll have 2 nights in Prague. And when it's time for you guys to leave from Prague with your cruise director, it is about a 4-hour coach ride from Prague to Nuremberg. They stop about halfway, so the driver gets a break. You guys all get a break. You could go get a little snack if there's the little rest stop that they stop at, and then you'll board the ship in Nuremberg, work your way down to Regensburg, Passau, Linz, Melk, and then you'll end in Vienna. So the day that your time starts in Prague is December the 7th. So we'll go through day by day. So when you arrive in Prague, we say na zdraví, which is like cheers. Toast to your arrival in Prague with a world famous Czech Pilsner. So Pilsner beer is kind of the popular brew in Czechoslovakia. You'll have the day free to explore in the city. So your flights will probably be arriving pretty early. I can't remember how early we landed, but it was probably like 9-ish in the morning. You get your luggage, you clear customs. There was an Avalon desk because we did our air and transfers with Avalon. We talked to them, got on our transfer to the hotel. The hotel held our luggage because just like here in the States, check-in time is not until 3 o'clock. You might be a little tired from the overnight flight, but the best way to beat jet lag is to kind of get out and about and start walking around. Um, and I know on our stay, we were at the Marriott, which is a great location, and we could walk right to some of the Christmas markets that were around the area. There was even like a grocery store, cafes, and things like that. There is an Avalon desk at the hotel. So on the Avalon desk, our cruise director, his name was Robert. He had the day by day printed out on what we were going to do on land, but he did encourage everybody to come to one of the conference rooms to meet with him at 6 o'clock that night. So we did the whole day on our own. We had dinner on our own, but we did get to meet our cruise director who would explain that the next morning, the local guide who was going to do the classic city walking tour with us, that we had to be downstairs by like 9 o'clock or whatever. So we had enough time to have breakfast, get back downstairs, and then we went with our guide to do the city. So it was great. The city actually has two parts to it. So we got to see both, and he ended the tour at the astronomical clock. I didn't put the full descriptions on here, but you're pretty much going to be done by lunchtime. If you would like to do any optional excursions, there's an afternoon walking tour of Prague's hidden treasures, and then there's an evening Czech dinner and folklore show. So the full description and pricing we can talk about later, or you'll be able to see it when it's time for you to pick your excursions. Both are great options. I didn't do that. Like I said, as much as I like being in a new destination, I'm usually tired, so I like to get to bed and rest up a little bit. And then the next day, again, your cruise director will say, hey, make sure you are downstairs by XYZ time. They will take your luggage and have it ready to go on the coach. So you'll have that ride. And the cruise director did a great job of giving us a little bit of tidbits along the way. He will remind you, or she will remind you, keep your passport with you in the bag. You are crossing the border from Czech Republic into Germany. They usually kind of eyeball the coaches as they come by. Our coach was not stopped to do a passport check, but they could. And then this is where, as we shared, excuse me, the insider tip is if you have any food sensitivities, go to the club lounge in the back of the ship, and you'll get to meet the chef and the food and beverage manager to talk about any of the concerns that you have. So that will be your first day, and then there'll be the reminder to come to do the safety briefing, and the captain's welcome that day. Also that day, the cruise director, because you guys will be lucky. You're already going to know your cruise director because you will have had those 2 nights in Prague. Some people just book the ship part, so they don't get to know that cruise director. So the cruise director introduces themselves to the entire ship. And usually what they'll do after the safety briefing is sometimes they'll do a high level port talk of, what to expect. Hey, this is a Christmas time cruise. These are the stops we're going to hit. I'll talk more about the different things each day, but they will usually do a reminder of the excursions that will be happening the next day, and remind you, hey, have your breakfast. The first excursions will leave at 9 o'clock. Make sure you come in and take your whisper pieces, your earpieces, be there by like 8:30 or whatever. So day four, you're going to wake up, you'll be in Nuremberg. So again, you'll choose what you want to do before. My husband and I, even though it was a Christmas market cruise, a travel advisor friend of mine said, "Hey, I know it's a Christmas market cruise, but it was really fascinating to learn a little bit more about the Nuremberg rally grounds that happened during the World War." But you can not choose that. You could just do a guided tour of the architecture. Regardless of which tour you choose, you'll be back to the ship for lunch. And then after lunch, they will have a shuttle that goes back to the Christmas market and you'll have free time. So after lunch, they took us back to the Christmas market and they said, okay, be back to the coach around, I think it was around 4:30 or 5 o'clock. And then we went back for happy hour and dinner on board in the port talk. The next day, you'll wake up in Regensburg. And again, you will have a chance to do the guided city walk. You'll get to see the Altes Rathaus or the Old Town House and the Porta Pretoria, which is the gates built in 179 AD. My souvenir suggestion is this is a town not far from the Christmas market around the corner. There's a little grocery store. A lot of people like the hot and sweet German mustard. And you'll see that on some of the sausage sandwiches on the markets. This is a good place to buy them. And at grocery store prices, not at like, Christmas market stall prices or at a restaurant who sells at prices. And then this day in Regensburg, you'll be sailing in the afternoon. So they'll have somebody on board talking about different Christmas traditions from the areas that you're going to be visiting. You'll wake up the next day in Passau. And this is known as like the town of the three rivers. So we had a wonderful guide who took us around. She was much younger. Her hobby was falconry. So she ended up talking to my husband because he's a big Eagles fan. He had his Eagles snow hat on, and she's like, "Ooh, bird!" So we made friends with her really quick because she liked the Eagles. But she did a beautiful job talking about not only the Christmas traditions, there's a really great art culture in Passau as well. Um, and there's some really good shopping. So she showed us like which her favorite gingerbread stall was and things like that. And this day you're in Passau for a while, so we ended up going back having lunch and kind of hanging out. But you could go back into town because they'll tell you what time you need to be on board that day before the ship starts sailing. My friends, they are big Sound of Music fans. So while we were doing just the walking around the tour, they decided to go to Salzburg for this optional sightseeing to do the setting of the Sound of Music. And they also stopped at the church and learned about the guy who composed the hymn Silent Night, because that was composed in a little town that you drive by on the way to Salzburg. And that one you are crossing the border. So the cruise director will remind you if you've booked this as an optional excursion, you'll bring your passport with you in case there's a passport check at the border. And then you will wake up in beautiful Melk, or you'll sail to Melk, I think, a little bit at that day. The unique thing about Melk, obviously, this is me in front of the beautiful Abbey. You cannot take pictures inside. So I love taking pictures and videos of every single thing that I visit. But you really have to be in the moment as you're walking through this Benedictine Abbey because they don't let you take pictures on the inside. But it's truly a beautiful, Baroque, magnificent structure. There is an area outside, obviously, where we all took our pictures in front of the Abbey. And then this is the day when you go back on board. You do not have to select this because everybody on board, if they would like, after lunch, there's a lovely lady who she actually brings plates of cookies on board. And then she explains what you're going to be tasting. So you're going to be doing not only a cookie tasting, but she's going to be explaining the different stories behind the cookies and the recipes behind the cookies. And then this day, you will be getting to Vienna in the evening. My husband's a musician. I took piano lessons, but never practiced. But we really wanted to do the concert that evening. So we did do the optional excursion. They bussed us to, they put us on the coach to the beautiful area. It's performance hall, beautiful, really just gorgeous wood carvings in the room. And we did the concert. So obviously they had classical music, but because it was Christmas, they also had some great Christmas touches as well. And this is the fun part. So the family that I mentioned with like the one kid probably was in middle school, grade school age. There was this little instrument. It was like it made like a peeping noise. It was like boop 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 boop. So the young kid got up there and he did that. So then the next day at breakfast, he's like, "Oh, Mr. Superstar, you were the one that got to play with the orchestra." So that was really fun and a great memory for that family. They were sitting like right in front of us, the 2 rows in front of us. So it was fun to see that. And then you'll have an opportunity to explore Vienna. Vienna's Christmas market is amazing. So you'll have a chance for the guided walk through there. Or you will, if you're more on the history side, you could do the gilded landmark. So you'll do the Imperial Palace, the Opera House, St. Stephen's Cathedral. But again, you'll have free time to go back and enjoy the Christmas market in Vienna. This day in the afternoon, this is one I did. This is my picture of us walking to the Christmas market at Schönbrunns Palace. So they do a Christmas market in the winter, and then for spring and summertime, they have beautiful gardens as well. So obviously, we were here for the Christmas market. We got to tour inside the palace and then enjoy the Christmas market outside before returning to the ship. So some people are Christmas marketed out at that point, but other people wanted to see kind of the more regal Christmas market. And this kind of reminded me, not so much the mirrors, but like the richness of the fabrics and the artwork kind of reminded me of a little bit of Versailles. So more like reds and greens and things, a little less gold, but really just absolutely stunning apartments in there. And then sadly, it goes pretty quick. You'll get up, and this is your disembarkation day. So, what happens is the night before, you'll get a letter and a colored luggage tag, which will say, "Hey, you know, and it's unlike an ocean cruise, you do not stick your bag out the night before. So, you keep your bag and everything you need to get ready with you. You do all that, and it'll say, Here, put this tag out here and put your luggage outside, whatever, 9:15, 9:30, and the nautical team will get it ready for your transfer. And again, when you come home, you'll be able to work with your magical travel advisors to plan your next Avalon or Globus or Cosmos trip. So again, that's where you're going to be looking out for your welcome back credit. Um, so I know Denise wants to share some photos and experiences from her many Avalon Waterways cruises. So she's been on 6 of them. So as a travel advisor, that says a lot. People can choose whomever they'd like, but she really enjoys the Avalon experience. But to make sure we lock in your space, so again, you want to give your $250 to lock in your space. We want to say thank you or dziękuję. If you book by the 6th of August, we have given the team a code to get you $50 per person off of the river cruise, so that you can go ahead and secure your space. And that way, you're going to be picking your cabin assignment, you're all locked in, and then they can work with you through the process for that. So I know everybody's tired of me talking, but I hope that was helpful in kind of giving you, a lot of the unanswered questions that you may have, or maybe spark some other ones. So I know you said there may be some other questions in the chat that we would come back to.
Okay, well, I'd like to show you some pictures of our Christmas cruises that we took over the years. And some pictures are going to be from Nuremberg and Regensburg, and Vienna. So I'm going to, there's just a couple. So let me just share this here.
And to answer your question, I did see the question. The $50 is coming off of the trip. It's not going toward the deposit. So everybody pays their $250 deposit, but then they get $50 off their trip.
Okay. Can everybody see the photo of me and my husband?
Yay!
Okay. All right. And I have to tell you, it's cold. Even if you go the end of November into December, it's cold there. So you're going to need a long coat, hat, scarf, gloves, boots. As as you'll see in some of these pictures. These shops, I love these shops. Some are outside, some are inside. You'll want to bring an extra little carry-on bag just to bring some things home because you'll definitely want to buy some Christmas items. I wanted it all. Always.
Same. My husband's like, you
Hats
need to
and gloves.
stop.
Yeah, hats and gloves there are so inexpensive, and the scarves like $8, $9 each. I always buy a ton of them to give to my family. You'll always find a cafe somewhere when you're walking around to get a little sweet or something hot like cappuccino, coffee, tea.
I know, that's gorgeous.
Everything is just so well decorated. It's just amazing. Um, my sister, the last time I was there, my sister and my brother-in-law were with us, and they're in their 80s, and they did a phenomenal job. They're active, so they went everywhere with us. Every day they took advantage of the tours. This was a little place we stopped in to get something to eat and to warm up. Cobblestone streets, of course, in Germany. This is where we seen the show. I don't know if that's where you saw yours, Andy.
No, we had a
The
smaller
opera.
venue. Yeah.
Okay. And then these are some of the sights you'll see along the river.
Hmm.
Here's the ship decorated for Christmas.
Oh, I want to go back. It looks
Yeah,
so
me too.
nice.
Here's a little my little living room, I call it.
Yes, the club lounge is
Club lounge.
awesome. Here's the panorama lounge. Yeah.
This is the lobby area. So nice touches. This is my sister and myself. We loved our waiter. We would sit in his section every time. Um, Ivan. So that's it. I just want to show you a few pictures of of Christmas time on the Danube.
Yeah, and it really is a great experience. I mean, I live up near Bethlehem, PA, and they do a little like local Chris Kindle Mart here that benefits like the Arts Quest organization. And they have like one authentic German ornament place that comes,
Yeah,
but everything else is not. So I've always had a desire to do an authentic Christmas market, and I'm so glad that I did it. And like my husband, he loves the whole experience. I said, "Hey, honey, is there anything in particular I should talk about?" He's like, "No." He's like, "Everything was so great." He's like, "I always love your cabins." He's like, "The beds are so comfy. I like the views
uh,
out." So
the
it's
beds are very
definitely
comfortable.
they are. And you could be like, was it Princess and the Pea? You sleep the first night, and if you want it harder or softer, they can flip the mattress. They can even put
And
a mattress topper, and there's a pillow menu as well. So I don't know. They seem to get it right for me the first time. I get to bed and I conk out. I never sleep so good except when I'm
same.
bored. I can't sleep when I'm at home, but I sleep great on the ship.
And it really doesn't matter if you're in front of well, you're not, wouldn't be in the front of the ship, but you
Yeah.
would be on the front of your floor because then that portion goes down into the lobby. Doesn't matter if you're there or towards the back, towards that club lounge. It's such a short walk.
Hmm.
It's not like these long hallways like an ocean liner. So it's very doable. It's very intimate. And I can't say enough about traveling that way. I think we have a couple more questions. If you deposit for two, can you switch out a person if they can't make it for some reason? Is that deposit transferable to another person's name?
I think it honestly depends on when that happens. So I have had a situation where it happened before final payment and the people did not have their airfare booked or anything, and there was a small name change fee. But if it's a situation where like somebody's closer in and canceling for a medical reason, that's why you have like travel and travel protection for that. So
Okay. Do all the stateroom categories have handicap or wheelchair accessibility?
there is no ADA compliance in Europe. So, getting around on the ship is very easy. There are stairs between the floors, but on our ship we had a small elevator that could take people like from the dining level up to, the passenger decks. But sometimes, especially in Vienna, Sometimes two ships are docked next to each other. So in some cases, you actually have to walk between the ships. I did a non-Christmas market cruise in Strasbourg, which does have a Christmas market, but that's on the Rhine. And the way that the river was that day, we actually had to go up the stairs onto the top deck and back down. So you do have to be pretty mobile. And the streets are a lot of the streets and sidewalks are cobblestone. So you should be able to, even though we have a gentle walkers group, you should be able to do a decent job of walking. But the shower stalls are literally that, a shower stall. So there's, that minimal lip to get in and out of the shower. There's usually a grab bar in the shower, but it's not ADA. Europe is not ADA accessible in general.
Right. Did you answer the question about the $50 per person cannot be used for deposit?
It cannot be used toward the deposit. So the
Okay.
deposit amount is still the 250. It's just they're getting $50 off that other people aren't getting, if they don't secure within the 2 weeks.
Okay. Are there any concerns with water levels this time of year?
We did not have any water level issues on our cruise. There are some water issues going on now for the Rhine and the Danube. So one of the other reasons I like to mention that we are part of Globus family of brands is if ever needed, we do have contacts at hotels that if we needed to get you off the ship for a little bit and have another ship come meet you, which has happened. Sometimes if it's high or low water, you can't get under a bridge. So last year in the summertime, the Danube had high water levels and the ship couldn't go under a bridge. So we took the guests, put them in a hotel, and then another Avalon ship came to meet them. So high and low river levels are not super duper common. It's for a short period of time right now. Europe's getting a little bit of rain to bring that up. The way the Avalon ships are designed, we are usually some of the last people to have to make those cancellations. We have a very narrow draft on our ship. So we can sail in lower water than some of our competitors. So, safety is always a top concern. So if there's ever a doubt, we'll shift some things. I actually have two people. One, it was her first river cruise. She was celebrating with friends her 20th wedding anniversary. And she actually called me. She came home last night. She called me today. She's like, I just have to tell you what a great job Avalon did because they had to shift off the Rhine a little bit and go to the Moselle. But the cruise director explained everything, kept everybody well informed, and just, I made it really still a great experience. And she said, her entire group of people, they're already waiting to use. They said, when's 2028 coming out? They want to use their welcome back credits for an Avalon cruise in 2028. So we will always do the right thing, but we do want to make sure that you have safety, but we also want to make sure that we can still give you good experience, even if we have to edit some things.
Lori is asking, can the slides shown about the trip be shared? We're going to share this because this whole event, because the whole recording, because we have recorded it. So, and we will share that with you once it's we get it from the cloud. So if Jen or Angela is your agent, they're going to be happy to share that with you.
Yeah. So the deposit, the 250 per person is non-refundable. It is to a certain point if you needed to transfer it to another booking, if it was like a non-medical reason, we can do that. But most people will end up, using, if it's a medical reason, they'll end up putting a claim through for their insurance. And the room service is just during meal hours. So the breakfast, lunch, and dinner hours, it is not 24-hour room service. There is the club lounge in the back that has the snacks in the back. So there's usually some nuts. I didn't even talk about triple chocolate chip cookies baked fresh daily.
Yeah.
My husband became the human cookie monster. I said, you should have brought stretchy pants and not jeans. His jeans were tight by the end of the week. So bring your stretchy pants. There's lots of good food and snacks on board. And also, he's a snacker by nature. I'm not. So when we would go out into town, we would get little things for him to snack on, even just in the room, like watching the movie on a TV or something. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
Andy, can you also touch on the insurance, the travel protection, when it needs to be purchased?
So I would recommend, a lot of people now, everybody seems to have a pre-existing condition these days. So if you are interested in having the full coverage, I would encourage you to do your travel protection at the time of deposit or within 14 days. Our Avalon policy will not cover pre-existing conditions if you do it after that. So for a seamless process, I would recommend doing that.
And then another quick question about food allergies.
Mhm.
So the wonderful lady that comes on board the ship to talk about all of the cookies, are there any allergy friendly options for that? Like, is there a way to reach out to her in advance to tell her that somebody has an allergy, or is that
No,
not really a thing?
she's doing traditional recipes.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's
Okay.
like, hey, this is how we make it, and if it's got butter in it, there's butter in it.
Okay.
So that's more of a an experience. So, obviously you can ask her, if it's a nut allergy or whatever, does this have nuts in it? Does this not have nuts in it? That's something. And she spoke perfect English. So
Okay.
but that's not something, it's not a meal that Avalon is preparing as kind of like a cooking demonstration that she does. I did a cruise in France where they did a cooking demonstration of, they call them cannelés. They're essentially like a French rum cake. So they had them pre-made while the guys were demonstrating it and brought the rum cake out, but there was no option for, are you gluten-free or whatever. I will tell you, I'm not gluten-free and I try not to eat them because I'm not gluten-free, but there are some gluten-free cookies, kind of crackery things in the back that are awesome. And I try hard not to snack on those because I don't need gluten-free, but they happen to be really good gluten-free snack in the back in the club
That is
lounge.
the allergy. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
allergy that I was wondering about is gluten. And then for the 2 nights in Prague, before the cruise, anything we can do about food allergies for that portion?
You would have to really communicate that with, because whatever you're dealing with. So I'd have to go back to my video. I try to get to the breakfast buffet early and do a video. But a lot of the restaurants will mark like, is it gluten free, is it dairy free, whatever. But there was plenty of selections, like there was fresh fruit, there was like open yogurt, but there was also individual think canisters of yogurt as well. I think I noticed that they have oat milk, or they had different milks for coffees and stuff, which was also good too. So it is really challenging to travel in a foreign country, when you have any food sensitivities. Um, so it's just really being aware and asking the questions. Um, I'm not allowed to recommend anything, but there is something that keeps coming up on my Facebook feed because my phone listens to me. So I don't want to say this as a representative of the company, but I will offline with you guys to give you some suggestions about. There is a company that specializes in a foreign language of where you're going. They'll put like, you can explain what your food allergy is in that local language, but it's not something we have a partnership with. So I don't want to get in trouble with that. But there are some companies that do that where it's like, hey, I have a shellfish allergy, whatever, and you could get cards in like a Greek or Spanish or Portuguese or whatever you need.
So we could Google that and
Yeah,
find that probably.
Yeah, we'll talk to you. I'll talk to you later. You can Google some other
Okay.
sources,
Google
but
Translate
Okay.
is good for that. I've been
Google
all over
Translate is
Europe.
great.
Google Translate is how I get around. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I have to say, the people in these stops, I mean, English is very widely spoken in most tourist areas. We have amazing, even though like our cruise and tour directors, I was in awe because I happen to love languages. So obviously I'm from the US, I spoke English. I took French in school. I worked for an all-inclusive company before coming to Globus and Avalon, so I wanted to learn Spanish. And when I tell you, our cruise director, Robert, was Polish, spoke English. Our driver from Prague to Germany was German. He's yip yapping with the driver in German. All of a sudden turns around, answers somebody in English, and then we happen to have somebody who spoke Spanish. He just five languages, like nothing. Boop, 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 boop. So, they're always a resource that can try to be an advocate on your part. But they're not always going to be everywhere. So, you want to have some self-help resources, but they're a huge help. They can be a huge help as well.
okay. Any other questions?
And just to let everybody know, there are post-cruise options as well. We can add a hotel on post-cruise if you're not quite ready to come back to reality just yet. Or if you want to just spend more time in Vienna, We can add a night or two on in Vienna to explore that city some more if you want. And airfare is not out yet, but we should see it around February-ish if we want to do an all-inclusive package that includes airfare with your cruise.
Yeah. Yeah. And usually with us, so the good news about this itinerary, you guys were so smart for picking it because everybody who chooses this itinerary with you is doing the 2 pre-nights in Prague. A lot of times for cruises that don't include those pre-nights, the pre-nights are on request. So because you guys were smart, you picked it with those 2 pre-nights. The post-nights are usually on request. So if it is something that somebody's thinking about, the earlier they can let you know that, the better, because we have to put it into the post hotel to see if they have the rooms that they could give us for those dates. Because it is Vienna, I forget one of the local guides told us like, oh, Vienna gets like, 4 million visitors a year. Well, they get a lot of them like, or whatever, like the numbers of people who want to go to the Viennese Christmas markets is much higher. So again, if it's something we need to request that room, the earlier we could get that request in, the better.
Okay.
But these were great questions. Thank you guys again for joining. And I'm very partial. Like I said, my husband and I did this itinerary. It was really the perfect Christmas itinerary. I liked having that time in Prague before we even got on board. It was really an amazing experience. The staff is amazing. The local guides that we partner with are great. You'll come home with a lot of amazing memories.
For sure. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you for taking the time out to learn about Avalon and the Christmas market cruise. Thanks to Andy for giving us that major overview, and Angela and Jen, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Reach out to Angela or Jen about the offer, and we can also send you the link to the this recording. So thank you again for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good
Good
night.
night.